are.
Okay. Welcome to Table Talk. We are happy to have you with us today. I am Sandy, and with me is Shelley.
It's been a minute for me, I think.
Yes.
I'm like, wait.
Yes.
Maybe they don't want me on. No, I'm just
No.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
Shelley's schedule
I'm busy.
with
Yes.
her son puts her in later, so.
Yes, it does.
So we got her today, so welcome. We've got some finishes to talk about, just a few. We have some good finishes.
We do.
Yeah.
Some good
Okay,
ones.
so we're going to start with this quilt. This is a pattern called Berry Smoothie, which doesn't, have
Doesn't
anything
look
to do
like
with
a
the fab-
berry
doesn't
or a
look like-
smoothie,
Yeah,
but
it's not
that's
very
all
smooth.
right.
So this is
so-
a Halloween quilt kit,
So fun.
and Kathy finished this one. So simple pattern, but it's great for those focus fabrics, for these modern, prints, because you really see.
the pattern.
Very smooth.
And with these big blocks, it just really focuses in on the fabrics. So that's
I just
fun.
like that because if you have a focal fabric, that is perfect.
Yeah,
for those
perfect
types of
for it,
fabrics.
right?
Yeah.
My favorite fabric in this collection is this one here.
Oh, the ghost.
I love the ghost on the blue, that periwinkle blue.
That
That's
is
so cute.
That is fun.
So we have this kit in stock, and perfect kit for what's coming up this weekend, which is Night Out.
Night out, yeah.
So Friday and Saturday from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Come into the store. We have specials going on. All the stores at Gardner Village have stuff going on.
Yeah.
Dressed as witches everywhere on the grounds.
Everywhere.
Music and food trucks.
Yep.
With, I don't know, hopefully the churro guy will be here again. They're yummy.
Oh,
but yeah,
yes.
so different food trucks and just lots of fun.
My sister-in-law and her grandma come to Gardner Village every year just for this.
For the witches?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for a week she'll stay here, and then they came in like last weekend, and then they love it.
Oh yeah, a lot of people. It's just a tradition.
It is.
Yeah.
It's their family tradition now, and you get all it's like sisters, it's the girls' night out.
Yeah.
Some
Night
of
out.
them will come.
Yeah.
And they bring their mom and all their sisters and their aunts and
they
whoever
are
they can get to
dolled
come.
up to the nines.
Oh,
I mean, just
they are.
Yeah, it's fun to see.
It is really fun.
So,
I
lots of
love
energy.
looking out the door and just watching. It's so fun.
Yeah, because you just see it's. Like if you didn't know what was going on, you were dropped from the sky in Salt Lake and just happened to be walking into Gardner Village, you'd be like, what the heck?
Yep.
It's
well,
like
a matter of fact,
Salem out there,
I think the other day, a gentleman and his wife came in. He says, my wife wanted to come here and just to come to your store. And he said, first of all, we kind of had a little bit of a hard time, locating because we didn't realize it was like in this area. And he goes, but what's going on? Is it like a special occasion or something? And I said, well, the whole month of October is a special occasion in the village. So he's like, okay. So we had to explain to him what happened. But anyway, it's turned out to be a good thing. So,
another finish. So mine's not completely finished yet, but I've got my backing. I've got my binding strips already cut. This is a new collection we got in called Buttercup and Slate. And so
love this. This is one of
just
my favorites right now.
Yeah, simple table topper, but kind of fun to have something fresh.
Yes.
Like color-wise, palette-wise. It's kind of fresh for this time here.
Yes,
So,
it is.
Fun.
And this Moda Love, that's a very
This is just
versatile. I love that pattern.
So you can do this pattern. It's called Moda Love. And if you go on to the internet and just type Moda Love quilt, you will find the link to this pattern. It uses one charm pack and a little bit of yardage.
Yeah.
You can do it using the 5-inch squares, the 10-inch squares. It makes a bigger quilt, or you can use the little 2.5-inch mini
little
squares.
minis.
Yeah. Same pattern, and it always, we've done it so many times, and it always turns out good.
Yes.
Always turns out good.
Always.
And if you want it bigger, add a border to it. Yeah.
Yep.
But I'm just keeping it simple table topper. So.
That will be fun.
And that will go to the quilter today. And again, I tried to channel my inner VJ when I was doing this. When I was pressing my seams.
Open your seams.
I was just like, I want...
Oh, I can't get into that. That just makes my fingers hurt. The steam and then just like, I can't open seams.
It was just a night. I needed some some focus time, of some, it was one of those
Something
nights where
different, right?
I just need to sit and sew on something.
Yeah.
Wait,
I
did
didn't
you
need to rush
finish
through
it in
it.
one night?
Yeah. Yeah, I did it one night after work. It really is a quick
It is.
pattern.
Yeah.
It's
It's
quick.
not.
The
Not bad.
thing that takes you the longest is just figuring out, okay, which squares go
How to
in
organize it,
where,
right? Yeah.
what charm squares am I using, which ones am I not, but it
Right.
went together fast. So, and then Kathy has another finish, so she always finishes so much cross stitch, but she finished these little pieces.
She is so fast.
She is fast. So this is a new chart that just came out by Heart and Hand.
And then
So
she
cute.
chose her own colors.
No, she did the colors.
did the
It looks
colors?
brighter
Oh.
on the pattern,
Yes.
but no, she used the colors that it called for.
Okay.
But and so then so she did the cross stitch, and then I did the finishing yesterday, which was just make the little pillows. I just backed them with wool. And I like when I'm doing these little ones, you can sew around and leave an opening for turning and such, but I never get that same.
That edge is never the same, right?
Edge is never
Yeah.
the same. So this time instead I sewed all the way around, and then I cut a slit in the back of my wool
okay.
to turn it. So then I hand sewed that closed, and then I just
Put
stitched a
something
little
over
leaf
it.
over the top. So this one, I haven't put my little thing over the back
Oh,
yet.
and I can see a little.
But doing that, I think on something so small, you get a better look for that.
Yeah.
Because that one edge that you're hand sewing closed never quite looks
Never.
the same.
Well, that's the same thing with bags. Your
Yeah.
lining, you have to leave
Yeah.
that opening to turn it, and it's like that. The
it never
opening
looks quite the
as
same.
good.
So that's
yeah.
just a fun, quick autumn project. Or, this one's totally not even
Right.
autumn, but just fun little bowl fillers.
And then they do have all the other seasons.
Yeah, there's other seasons. Like here's on the back, you can see one of the Americana ones she did.
Americanas, yeah.
But just fun. And they're called Imprints. Harvest
That'll be
and
fun
Home.
to have.
So
Yeah.
it's fun.
Yeah.
And Carrie mailed us her
Oh,
finish,
this
which
is the best ever.
So we're going to open it up. Open up the stable.
This is how Happy Meal looks like when I was
The Happy
young.
Meal.
So when I was carrying it,
Yes.
I was like, "This is
She's
my
like,
Happy
"Look, it's a
Meal."
Happy
Oh, that is funny. I know.
Because
it
there used to be that box, the house.
Yep. Yep, for sure.
And so here is. It opens up all the way. We'll show you the whole thing, but it's got the cute. I love how baby Jesus is in his little
And his little bag.
pocket bag
Yes.
there. And all the different characters. So we showed you the panel itself a week or so ago, but then there's all the characters.
And then they
Oh, I
have
love
like the
this.
names
Yep.
of when you're like.
There's the shepherd and the wise man.
I love this. I collect nativities, and I try to just keep smaller ones.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I have 4 kids. And it's like, okay, do
Someday
I need to
you're
make
gonna-
4 of these?
Someday you're gonna be a grandbaby.
Family when
Yeah.
they have kids. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, killing me now.
Yeah, after we showed the panel last time, we had a lady come in this week that said she wanted where it was because she bought 5 of them. She was making as gifts.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, you don't need one for each kid, just per family. That would be great.
So this is, and you can put who it belongs to on the bottom if you want. So there's, when it's closed, you can have the outside of the stable where you see the different people and such. The inside is just, so little kids can play with it.
Yes.
Just so fun.
So fun.
Good
It
job.
could probably even be washed and
Yep.
not even ruin it too
Yeah.
much.
And
But
Carrie, so my sister Carrie is the one that made it, and she said it was really easy to make.
Oh, yeah.
So really super simple. Thank you, Carrie, for doing that for us. And it is done.
She is the best.
She's good.
She's done a lot for us.
We've got her
We have
working
to
on a new
bring
project.
that in.
And she's like, holy cow. It's got thousands of pieces.
Yeah, that one did for sure.
She messaged us and said, I think VJ wants to make this one. I said, no, you're doing that one, sis.
You're like, you're
So.
fine.
But she'll get it
What
done
you
for us.
need. Right.
Okay, we're going to talk about today
About patterns, because
patterns.
there are a few questions people ask about, like, oh, when can I use pre-cut fabric for certain, because they just don't want to cut, I guess.
Yeah, so your patterns will usually tell you pre-cut friendly. They'll say fat quarter friendly or charm pack or layer cake friendly.
Do we have? I think we have some patterns that will like show you.
They should. A lot of them will.
Yeah, that one would be a layer cake.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously your backgrounds are not, but yeah.
So this one tells you it needs a B-Plaid's 10-inch stacker. And then it tells you the additional fabrics that you need.
Right.
So the pattern will usually tell you that it can be used with pre-cuts.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of a selling point. So designers will put that
Right.
on their things.
And there's books out there too that are specific to layer cakes or jelly rolls or your charms.
And there's,
So,
even the little Villa Rosa simple cards, some of them will
these,
say
yeah,
fat quarter, so you can look for one that just takes a jelly roll or just
right.
takes,
Yeah, like these are fat quarters. I haven't
Yeah.
pulled anything.
But there's
yeah.
lots of online too. You can find lots of free patterns online. But yeah, it should tell you.
Well, can I say it? The one I refer to is the Moda Bake Shop.
Yeah.
And most of their patterns on there are geared more towards their layer cakes or the charms. So yeah.
And then so when you pick one of the pattern up, they can usually just read it from.
Just read
the
what
bag.
it says. It'll tell you.
Fabric requirement, yeah.
The fabric requirement will tell you a 5-inch stacker or a 5-inch charm pack. So Moda fabrics are called charm packs. A 5-inch stacker would be a Riley Blake. They're the same thing. They're 5-inch squares, 42 5-inch squares. Riley Blake calls them 5-inch stackers. Moda calls them charm packs. But they're interchangeable. So if something says charm pack, you can use a 5-inch stacker. It's just the same thing.
Yeah.
Just what they refer to them as.
And so then, if we have suggestion for beginner-friendly quilt kits or pattern, what would they be?
So you can take anything from, like, beginners can be anything like squares. So this is a tree skirt that we showed before, but it's just squares.
Yeah.
I mean, it's simple. It's squares.
And then a lot of people see circle, they're just like, oh no.
Don't be intimidated by that. You take the squares, and depending on how you arrange them, you end up with a buffalo check or and you've got 3 fabrics in this. Super simple. It's strip piecing. It's really a simple project. And a baby
strip
quilt.
piecing is like when you sew, you have the width of fabric, cut 2.5 inches or whatever the requirement is, and you sew the white against the pink or whatever, and then you'll subcut it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you can take that same pattern, you can do it small. You can do it with larger squares for a larger quilt. So this one's more of a twin size quilt. And this is using 2 fabrics from, remind me the name of this.
Oh, you shouldn't have asked me
I
because
know.
I could have told you.
Briar Rose.
Briar Rose. There we go. That came in my mind at the same time you said that.
So squares can have a lot of character to it, just depending on how you lay them out.
Yeah.
Then you get into squares with rectangles. So this is one we've done in a couple different fabrics before. This kit's called Eat Your Veggies. But so you don't have any triangles in this, but there's a little more variety, but it's really...
Right. I was gonna. I thought I had it up here, but it's not gonna be close by. Oh, this one is kind of. I'll show you the back side, but you're still dealing with like the squares like this, but maybe one of the squares is gonna be like just a patch, a 4 patch.
So
so if you show the pattern right there, you have the full square with the 4 patch in between it, and it kind of makes the diagonal.
Yeah.
So something like that would be just as easy as well to do.
So it's squares.
do something like that.
You get into smaller and triangles but there are some really great easy patterns. And we've talked about them before, these 3-yard quilts. So Shelley, you've got some books from that series.
So just different patterns in here, and they're just used 3 different fabrics, and each fabric is 1 yard. And see, that's kind of similar to what we were just showing. But there's just different And I think these can be, they're beginner, you know,
Yep.
just learn. I mean, like this one, you're learning maybe a half square triangle, learning a little different technique, but it's just as easy
And
as,
each
you know,
book
something
has,
like this.
like 8 different quilts in it,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah, 8 different quilts. And you know, it's really hard for a lot of people to look at a pattern and go, oh, but that does not appeal to me. And it can be the fabric. It's totally the fabric. And a lot of times it's regional, like where that pattern designer lives. Or what, you know, maybe batiks are hot in that area of the country when they design it. So that quilt pattern may be all in batiks and that's not your thing.
Right.
So look beyond what the
I always,
quilt
don't
is.
look at the picture. Look at how the quilt is put together.
kind
Look
of-
at the pattern
So
itself.
they have books where you get 8 in each book.
Yeah, and this particular one, we have like 4 or 5 different books that have, and they're all different patterns in those books. There's
But
not
then
one
they
that's the
also
same.
have individual patterns. Like here's this one now. This one is blue and red. But how cute would that be done for Christmas?
Yes.
Oh, that would be really cute.
So super cute, Christmas trees, 3 fabrics. There you go. 1 yard each, just a fun quilt. We've done, this one has been a popular one. Remember when we did this one with the Santa?
Oh, yes.
So if you look at that pinwheel there's pinwheels and then there's just a square. And so that focus fabric, we did it 1 year with a Santa Claus print for the square and then red and white pinwheels. And it was really cute.
Right, well,
cute.
that city lights right above it too. That's another one that was
So,
just kind of breaks
there's
up the
so
square.
many of these that are, for beginners, it's nice because you're not having to pick out 12 different fabrics. 3 fabrics, 1 yard, your cost is down.
Yep, and the
you get some
sizes
cute
are,
quilts.
I mean, what size is
They
this
vary.
one? I know they do vary, but I was just...
So 51 by 59 is this one. We've got one that's 48 by 58. So
Yeah.
they're more of a lap size throw quilt.
Yeah.
But you can also double it up and end up with a twin. You know,
You could.
you just
yeah, for
double your
sure.
fabric, so you'd need 2
And
yards
then
of
just make
each,
more
and just make
of the
more
squares.
blocks.
Yep, more blocks.
So those are some really good beginner projects. To me, though, I always am like, it's got to be something that appeals to you,
Yes.
that you're motivated to do to get it done, because it can be super simple, but you're not really attracted to the fabric, or you're really not that in love with the design. And so you're not going to be as motivated to actually complete it.
Yeah.
So make sure the fabric's something you're just excited about.
that you like, for sure. Yep.
So because we're talking about beginner friendly, I think like there will be time that you run into a problem reading a pattern. Even like when I make bags, I'm like, I don't understand what they're talking about. So how do I continue the next step when you have those doubts or like problem solve before?
Sometimes it might be just a matter of putting it away for a minute and then coming back to that step where you were, and then maybe it'll be more clear. Because because I think when you get frustrated with something, you're like, you know, and I think you tend to make more mistakes. You unpick a lot more. So if you get to that point, maybe you just need to step away. You know, go back to the next day or in a couple hours or whatever. But yeah.
The quilting community is awesome with helping too.
Yeah.
Find a friend, ask a friend, because maybe it makes sense to them that's not making sense to you.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Kathy brought me a pattern yesterday, and she's like, okay, well, I'm not sure what they're saying here. So I read through it. I'm like, okay, this is, and she's like, eh. And just even me rereading it
Yes.
and her hearing it was like, okay, I got it now. I know what they're saying.
We do that a lot, though.
Yeah.
I'll bring stuff back and I'll say, "What the heck
Yeah.
does that mean?" You
And you
know,
just
and
need
it's like,
someone
"Oh,
else's-
yeah."
Yeah.
Sometimes you might feel kind of dumb because you're like, "Oh, I knew that," but,
Yeah. But
you know, but it helps. Though.
does, yeah.
It's there for you. Yeah.
I do see people asking those kind of questions on Facebook group. You know, they're like quilting groups.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
find someone, ask a question, Google it, you know?
Yeah.
If that's a technique you don't know, go to YouTube, see what they're, you know,
What they
someone
say.
says.
Yeah.
And also for me, so every pattern, well, most patterns will say, read instructions before beginning.
Right. And most quilting are that way. You can't do bags that way, but yeah.
Read the instructions before you begin. I cannot do that. Like I read through my cutting instructions before I start to cut, and then I cut. But my brain goes blah 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 when I read through the whole thing. It's just like,
I'm confused already.
you know,
Yeah.
Charlie Brown. Wah, 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 wah. So I have to just take it a step at a time. Don't look too far in advance. Just
Right.
focus on step one, and then move on to the next one.
And for me, I'm more of a visual person. So if there's a pattern that has like a little picture
Oh, I
Yeah.
love a
that
picture.
diagrams what you do, it's like, oh, okay.
yeah.
And then maybe I'll just read at the top what it says about that diagram just for a minute.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then I can go and do
Yeah.
it. But if there's more pictures in there, the better off I am, because then maybe I don't have to read as
Yeah.
much.
Lila
But,
Boutique,
yeah.
her patterns are great.
Uh-huh.
Lila Boutique has lots
Yeah.
of illustrations. Corey Yoder's patterns have lots
Yeah.
of illustrations. So you'll find certain designers that you like because you like the way they pattern right.
Pattern
Yeah.
right. Yes, exactly.
Robin says the same thing about that elegance quilt.
Yeah.
She say, I don't remember her name. Of
Yeah,
the,
I can't remember her name, but
name.
she
Yeah, I
said the
don't
same thing that
remember.
her lots
has
of
pictures.
illustration pictures,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because, and my brain, that's the way my brain, I'm a visual, you know, I like a good diagram.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
So,
Okay. So last question, to Sandy and to Shelly. You guys like do different parts. So to Sandy, like as you have some experience writing patterns, do you feel like people can look for some things in their pattern or instruction as clues as they go along to just easily understand?
to easily understand, I think the more you quilt, the more projects you've done, the more variety of designers you've done their patterns or whatever, it just, the language starts to come easier. You understand
Right.
what they're talking about.
When they use
You know.
specific words?
Yeah, they'll say, you know, when HST, you're going to see
Right.
that.
Or WOF.
Yeah,
or,
WOF,
yeah.
you know that means width of fabric. HST, that's a half square
Half square
triangle.
triangle.
You know, you just get more familiar with the language of quilting, you know.
Yeah.
You're going to buy a pattern sometime and you're going to find that you do not like, there's one particular pattern designer, and I won't name, but because it's just the way my brain works, I'm sure. I do not like to sew those quilts. I don't like those, and so I just avoid that particular line of patterns because it's just doesn't work with my brain. She and I don't speak the same language or whatever. But so you're going to find pattern designers that you gravitate towards because you make one of their quilts and you really like it.
And you
So
really like-
look for something
yeah.
else that particular designer has made. If you enjoyed sewing that quilt, then look what else does she have? What else has you know, have they designed?
Yeah.
Don't you think? Because you get to find designers that you just like.
You do.
The way
And
they
I think
write.
when you first start, you're gonna try everything that you like, and you know you'll get into a groove where it's like, oh yeah, this works for me. I'm gonna stick with that direction or whatever. But yeah.
But find a friend that knows how to quilt or that wants to learn with you, or you know,
Yeah.
don't be intimidated to ask questions because we've all been quilting a long time, but sometimes it's just not clicking and you just need to actually almost verbalize it to someone else and then it
Exactly.
can click.
Then it clicks. Yeah.
It's saying this, you're actually saying it out loud to someone else,
Well,
and
I
then and
know.
sometimes you'll go and they'll say something, you're like, oh yeah.
And my husband will sometimes he'll come into my room. He will say, "Were you talking to me?" And I'm like, "No,
No.
I was just mumbling to
Yeah.
myself."
I'm just
'Cause sometimes
talking it
I
out.
talk
Yeah.
it out loud. You
Yeah.
know, sometimes that helps too.
Yep.
So yeah.
Okay.
Did you say something to me? No.
Nope.
So to Shelly, as you have read so many different types of patterns and when you're making different type of finishes, what do you feel like are some principles that can help people move to the next step when they're like having concerns? I look for like tutorials and that like because I'm making bags, right? And then there's so many people, they have different ways of making the same bag.
Same bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I look for those tutorials and they just to see which way works, which
Right.
way is the nice finish. How do you do those when you have like
The like different techniques.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of those things you just have to experiment with to say, do I like this way? I mean, it resorts back to finding what you like. You know, like the fabrics, you gotta make sure you like it. And, you know, you can see the different techniques that everybody uses.
Yeah.
But there's always that one that you're going to always resort back to. So it's like making half square triangles. If you're afraid of that, well, you know, get some scrap fabric and play with it.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's different types of rulers you can buy and things like that could help you with those half square triangles, you know, so that you can get them basically perfect so that when you get them into your project that they're, you know, but it's just don't be afraid. Experiment with it, I think.
Experiment and ask questions. Find someone to ask. There's, you know, find one of your local shops that
Yeah,
will be willing to
come
answer.
into our store. I mean, we're
It's really
you know,
hard over the phone a lot of times to answer certain questions.
communicate what you want to say. Yeah,
Because
it's
someone's
hard.
saying, describing it to you, you're visualizing a different way. But you can always bring something in and say, here's my pattern. This is what they're saying.
Yeah,
Do you understand? You know, what are they?
yeah. It's,
You know,
it's
that's
easier that way.
People, quilters are nice.
Mm-hmm.
They like to help.
Yeah.
They want to have, you know, and stores, they want to have you have a successful project. So just think, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah. I think that's the first step. And then
Yeah.
also don't be afraid to unpick.
To unpick.
Yeah.
I don't like to do it,
Yeah,
but like,
for sure.
Yeah, that's like
And just because, you know, we are, you know, experienced quilters does not mean that we do not unpick. Let me
all
tell
do.
you.
we all
We
do.
still do it.
Yep. We
We
all
keep
do it.
many seam rippers in our drawers.
And like, so there's one thing in particular. So applique, when you learn to do applique projects, there are so many different techniques for doing applique.
Yes.
You got your needle turn, you got it with freezer paper, you got it with starch, you've got, you know,
Yes.
all different kinds of applique. And it's just and I've tried many different kinds, and then I always gravitate to this one. So you just find the one that feels more natural for you.
Yeah.
There is not one exact way, the right way to do applique, because there's lots of different methods. To me, the right way is what works for you, what seems more natural, what seems more comfortable, because you can fight it, but find that.
Oh, yeah.
But try, you know.
Yeah.
And everybody's
different
got
ways.
some scraps of fabric. If you are questioning a block, how they want you to construct it, and you've got, you know, 50 blocks in your quilt, before you start piecing that block, get some scraps of fabric and try it out and make one block. Make sure your measurements add up.
Right.
Make sure it makes sense to you before you get into your...
Get into it. Yeah, for
fabrics.
sure. Yeah, because that'll make or break
Yeah.
it for
And
sure.
so my sister Sherry's doing a sew along, and her blocks are like perfection, and she's like, they're not the same measurement as what she says they should be, but all her points were perfect, everything was perfect, but she had used a scant 1/4 inch,
Okay.
and it made a difference by the time the block was finished. Yeah, it was beautiful, it was perfect, but the finished size was a little bit bigger than it
Ended
was
up
supposed
bigger,
to. So her
yeah.
next pieces that were to add on didn't, you know.
Oh,
But
yes.
so there's lots of little different
yeah.
things that you can run into, but you can usually work it out.
Yes, you can.
So,
It'll work.
but ask for help. That's what I always say. Ask for help, or be bold and just try it.
Yeah.
And then I think that's a good thing about having like a quilt book like that. You can just read through and see what's the easiest to start, you know?
To start, yeah.
And then when you have that sense of success, you're more willing to try the next one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's give away
What do
one
you
of our
want to?
books for
Yeah.
our 3-yard quilt books.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
leave a comment on the page, and let's see, whose patterns do you like the most? Or what's a pattern makes a pattern easy for you to understand in the comments, and we will give away one of our books. So
Awesome.
every
Okay.
week we give away something, and so post a comment, follow us, like us, share us. We'd love to have more people enjoy what we're doing. So thank you for joining us for Table Talk, and we will see you next week.